Welcome back to another episode of Keep Austin Safe, the podcast where we take you behind the scenes of the Austin Police Department. I'm your host, Jose Mendez, and today we're breaking down a topic that a lot of people still have questions about. What is the difference between 911 and 311? Now, joining us today, we have two very special guests that are here to break down this topic and help us understand it a little better. Joining us today, we have 911 call taker Ivan Romero with Austin 911, and he's been with them for 2 years. Also joining us, we have a public information specialist senior, Bryn McCurley. She's with Austin 311, and she's been with 311 for just about 5 years now. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, there seems to be a little bit of confusion about who to call for certain things, right? Do I call 911 for this? Do I call 311 for this? And I'm not talking about the in progress calls, like the fights that are taking place or the burglaries that are in progress, robberies, those things. Those are pretty self-explanatory, and I feel like most people know to dial 911 for those. But it's more along the lines of, hey, I was just involved in a crash on 35 and my vehicle is blocking the road. Who do I call? Or I was out on 6th Street. I was just assaulted by somebody. That person has since left. It's about an hour time frame now that has lapsed. Who do I call to make a report? It's those kind of cases that I would like to get into and that we'll kind of break down for our listeners today. But starting with introductions and starting with you, Ivan, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you're here representing today, and what you do.
Well, hi, my name is Ivan. I'm a 911 call taker. I've been here for about 2 years, and as previously mentioned, I've been doing this for 2 years, right? But today marks year 2.
Awesome.
Prior to this, I went to school at Texas State. Eat 'em up, right? And I was just working part-time jobs and ended up getting this job just through an application that my friend told me about. He said there was a shortage at the time. I'm not sure if you knew, but you probably do know, but about 2 years ago, we were at about 50% staffing. Since then, it's gone up. But yeah, back to it. I'm a 911 call taker, and I represent the city of Austin's 911, more specifically APD. We're the first line for all 911 calls that come in. When it comes down to it, calls come into us, and then from there, we determine, hey, do you need police, fire, EMS? If it's non-police, we'll send you over to whatever department you need, mental health, whatever it may be. Yeah, that's what I do. I take 911 calls.
Awesome. And now I have to ask you, Ivan, how stressful is your job?
It's pretty stressful, but we talked about this earlier. I'd say it's pretty rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. You're the first voice someone hears when they're experiencing some kind of crisis or an emergency.
Yeah.
And I've seen what you guys do and seen you guys in action, and I'm very interested in what you guys do, and I'm oftentimes kind of like, wow, they do a lot of stuff. I mean, multitasking, being able to type, and kind of taking the information as it comes in. So I applaud you, man. It's a tough job.
Thank you.
Now, Bryn, same thing. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you're here representing today, and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Bryn McCurley. I am a public information specialist senior, like you said, with Austin 311. And kind of my role within Austin 311 is to educate Austinites. So that goes through marketing, social media, things like that, and really getting out and talking to the public for community events, which is one of my favorite things. But yeah, so that's what I'm all about, is educating residents.
Awesome. Now, we'll get into a breakdown of 911 and 311 here in a bit, but in real simple terms, Ivan, starting with you, what is the difference between 911 and 311? It seems pretty simple, but I don't know.
911 is for life-threatening or immediate emergencies. That's how I see it.
Oh, in a nutshell, there you go. And Bryn, what is the difference between 911 and 311?
311 is not emergency. So think if it's not threatening life and property immediately, then it's going to come to 311. So
Okay, now one of the big differences also is that Austin 911 is affiliated with APD, but from my understanding, 311 is kind of its own entity, correct?
yeah, somewhat. So we are funded by Austin Energy, so we're kind of under their umbrella, but overall we're kind of our own entity. We have our own call center where our ambassadors will pick up calls from Austinites and everybody. And then, yeah, so that's kind of how we roll. We have about between 75 to 100 ambassadors at any time taking a call. So
Great.
Mhm.
And for 911, what's the staffing look like right now? Let's say like per shift or just overall, what's that staffing number look like?
Overall staffing, we have something like 90-ish call takers, about 80 dispatchers. It's gone way up over the past 2 years. We've been really aggressive with hiring people. Um, per shift, we have about 15 to 20. I know mornings may be a little bit less because it's slower in the mornings, but I know eves and nights, we have way more, hitting 20s usually.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know some people are probably thinking, I can do that job. Like I can take some calls, type them in the computer, and be done with it. Is that the case? Like I said, I've seen it be a pretty difficult job, but what's your opinion on that?
I mean, if you can handle someone yelling in your ear, telling you send the police or send EMS, not giving you the address, you're having to calm them down to be able to give it to you, all while communicating with dispatch and your officers, you can do it.
There you go. Now let's focus on 911 for a little bit. What kind of calls should be reported to 911?
You mentioned some of them already. Active break-ins into cars, active auto thefts, any kind of auto theft, honestly. Fights that are active, robberies. Anytime you hear a shot fired, um, there's so much more to it, but the way I see it, if it's actively occurring, call 911. And obviously, there's things like fires, medical related calls, or for those who don't know, if your water pipes bust and it's flooding your apartment, call 911. They'll help you out.
So it seems like anything actively occurring at that moment, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, statistically speaking, how many 911 calls are coming into the 911 call center yearly?
We receive over a million, about, it's a lot.
Wow. Yeah, I would say that's a lot. And then what's the process look like from start to finish when someone does call 911?
When someone calls 911, the way we go about it is obviously we're going to get the address. That's the most important part to finding someone, sending the help to them. From there, it's going to be, hey, what's going on? What's the nature of the emergency? Obviously, if it's medical, fire related, mental health, we'll transfer them over to that department. But if it is, I'm in a fight, this person just robbed me. For these situations, we're going to ask the questions, which are, what does a person look like? Do they have weapons? Um, where are they last seen? Where are they still there? Did they leave? And then obviously, do you need medical if they hurt you? Things like that. From there, I'm gonna ask for their number. I'm gonna ask for their name, verify their phone number, things like that. And then if they want contact with officers to follow up.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but as you're getting that information and as you're typing it into the system, a police response is already kind of initiated, right? The police are already on their way, right?
I forgot to mention that. So when we do get the nature of the emergency, right? I'm in a fight. I just got robbed. That's where we would put the call into queue. That's where it gets put in this row of all the calls we receive throughout the day. Some might be holding if it's something not as urgent. And from there, it'll be kind of triaged, right? Like if you were at the ER, right? Determining the severity. From there, let's say it's an active fight, that's going to be a hot shot. Hot shots are going to be the highest priority at 911. For that, we're immediately going to find whatever officer we have to send over to that call. So, yeah, that's how we assign calls. That's how they're on their way. Sometimes they're not immediately on the way, but when it comes to life threatening, we try to get them on the way as soon as possible.
Okay, great. And some of that important information again is location is number one,
Yeah.
and a suspect description if you've been involved in a crime or possible direction of travel, things like that would be pretty important, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now switching gears, let's focus on 311 for a little bit. What kind of situations should be reported to 311?
So kind of how I said before, just anything non-emergencies. So of course, not life-threatening and not threatening property. So think potholes, loose dogs that are kind of not bothering anybody. They're not going after other animals or people. Street lights that are out, things like that. That's what you're going to call 311 for.
Great.
Mhm.
Now each year, about how many 311 calls are coming into 311?
Yeah, so over 1 million calls. So both of our call takers are very busy. That's for sure.
No, and the process of it, from start to finish, what does that process look like for somebody that's calling 311?
Yeah, so it's not too big of a process. So basically, you'll submit your service request, and there's three ways. You can either dial 311. You also have a 10-digit number, 512-974-2000.
Okay.
Submit it on the mobile app that we have, or you can go online. So those are the three ways you'll submit. And from there, it's immediately sent over to the appropriate department. And they're going to be the ones to investigate and ultimately close out the service request. And you can always get updates too if you call in. So.
Great. Now, someone might be thinking, like, why would I report a pothole or why would I report debris in the roadway?
Mhm.
Could those be contributing factors to something else?
Yeah, so those could cause emergencies. And so that's why we always want people to be proactive with it. And that's why I love the mobile app because if you're just like walking down the road, you can just take a picture and then submit it and then go about your day. And it's been taken care of now. So, yeah.
Great. Now, do you
So nice.
now do you see more people kind of utilizing the 311 app, or are they actually calling the 311?
Both. So, what I always say is if it's kind of a simple fix like a pothole, use the mobile app if you want to. But if it's kind of you have questions about it, like, oh, well, this street light is blinking and it's just completely out, there's like not even red flashing, that could be a 911 call. So maybe you want to call 311 just to make sure that you're, doing the right thing. But yeah, if you ever have questions, just call 311.
Great. Now, let's dig a little deeper into why this all matters, right? Why does the Austin Police Department emphasize using the correct line for calling for help? And is there any impact to operations? Let's say when someone calls 911 for any non emergency type call.
So when it comes to non-emergency calls, sometimes accidentally coming in or you're unsure, those types of things can delay callers. It can delay callers to get their solution, right? It could delay caller solution. And it also delays all call takers, whether 311 or 911. We want to get you the appropriate help, but whenever it's coming into us, there could be people having life-threatening emergencies, and that's only delaying the response time to get them their help. I'm not sure if you know, or probably a lot of people don't know, but for 911 national standards, we're supposed to answer calls, every 911 call within 15 seconds. So, as you could tell, like in 911, seconds matter. So, whenever we get those non-emergency calls, sometimes it's like, "I'm sorry, I can't do anything for this call. Go ahead and call 311." And sometimes callers will be like, "Well, can't you just put it in?" And it's like, we don't work together like that. So let me give you the 10-digit number that you mentioned, or go ahead and dial 311. But it really does delay the help for someone who is having a life-threatening emergency.
Yeah, and you hear that a lot. Seconds matter. When someone's actually trying to make a legitimate emergency type call, and it's kind of delayed by someone that's calling 911 for a non-emergency, I can see where that's an issue. And again, every second matters. Every second counts. So we want a police response pretty quickly. And again, freeing up those lines is a pretty important thing.
Yeah.
Now, for 311, is there any impact when someone calls 311 and they should be calling 911?
Our ambassadors basically will tell you, this is an emergency, hang up and dial 911 because then it properly puts it in the queue for 911. We don't want to transfer because we don't know where that'll leave them in the queue. So really, it's just making sure that they call themselves. But yeah.
And piggybacking on that really quick,
Mhm.
whenever they are requesting to be transferred, that makes it a little difficult for us because we'd rather they dial themselves because I don't think I mentioned this. We use a system called Rapid SOS. It's just what we use to be able to better find you when you
Okay.
call. So whenever it's a transfer from another line, that phone number doesn't pop up.
Mm,
So we can't track it. So if you're having an actual emergency, we can't find you in those cases sometimes.
yeah.
But
No, that's good information.
yeah.
And Bryn, like we were talking about earlier, someone that might consider, let's say, like allergies or something like that. Maybe not at that moment. It's a medical concern, but it could be right.
Yeah.
And dialing 311 maybe not the best way. Maybe it's something you call 911 for. Or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so if that does happen where you'll call 311, again, the ambassador will make sure you end up calling 911. But I feel like the biggest thing that we might see is people being modest and not wanting to bother people. And it is okay if you're having an emergency, and to recognize it and to just call 911 in that situation. But if there's ever confusion, just call us. But um, don't sell yourself short in situations like that for sure, especially if it's allergies, because that could end up bad. So
Yeah, most definitely.
It's pretty bad here.
yeah. And I mean allergies as in like anaphylactic shock, not like your cedar is kind of high.
Because that'd be a lot of calls then coming in
Yeah.
here in Austin.
I don't think I would appreciate that.
Now, have you noticed any patterns with certain calls that people get confused about when trying to decide, do I call 311? Do I call 911? Is there a specific call that you kind of see reoccurring?
Some that come to mind are going to be easily traffic hazards. To better explain that, let's say you're driving on a Mopac and you see a big old trash bag blocking the left fast lane, right? You may think, let me call non-emergency for that. No, call 911 for that because we don't know what's in that trash bag. It could be leaves and, pop, all the leaves are all over the road, or it could be something really heavy that just your truck hits at full speed. That's going to do some damage. People could get hurt.
Yeah.
Hit and runs being another one. So for crashes, obviously, if you're blocking the road, if there's injuries, you need a tow truck, things like that, you can call us at 911. But if it's a hit and run and you don't need a tow truck, you don't need EMS, this guy just broke off your mirror and he left, call 311. We get a lot of those, and that one is really common, and it's just call 311. It's super simple. You do it over the phone.
Okay. And Bryn, is there any specific call that you kind of see reoccurring that, again, maybe not so much a 311 call, but maybe a 911 call?
Yeah, I think that's a good point of what Ivan said is if something's in the road for a highway, because that is a big one. I think there was one time where I was driving and there's a ladder in the road. And so, I called 911 for that one because if somebody hits that, that will not be good. But so situations like that. And then I think calls that maybe 911 gets that should definitely go to us are break-ins.
Okay.
And so if the person has already left, what I always use as an example is, say you go to the mall and you go in and you go shopping for a few hours and you come out and your window's broken and there's absolutely nobody on scene, nothing's going on. That's going to be a 311 call. So like you can get that police report started, but you're not holding up the line from somebody who needs help. Also another one, I'm trying to think I had it. I think you mentioned it a little bit.
But we go back to active.
Mhm.
Like if the crime is active, right? So
Yeah.
obviously the suspect left. Yes, your car has been broken into, but nothing's active at that moment. So that would be a 311 call, right?
Yes, definitely.
So now before we get into the last segment of the podcast, what do call takers wish the public understood most about the proper use of 911 and 311?
One of the biggest things we call takers, right, we would wish is that the public would understand the difference between urgency and inconvenience. So, like, 911 obviously is going to be for anything life threatening, time sensitive, or, it's an immediate danger. Even if you're unsure, obviously, we'd rather you call. But many times we find that people do call in situations that are just frustrating. And when it comes to you calling because let's say that car is parked wrong in your driveway, that slows us down, and it slows down response for someone that is having a life-threatening emergency. I've had a lot of times where we've had where we're holding and there's someone who their grandmother just collapsed and she's having a heart attack. But prior to that, I had someone tell me, like you previously mentioned, hey, someone broke into my car, can you like send someone out? It's like, you got to call 311. And then I finally answer on this person whose grandmother just collapsed.
Yeah. And Bryn, your thoughts?
Yeah, just whenever it comes to Austin 311, it's really if you have a question about it and it's city related, just give us a call. We're there 24/7 to answer any questions that you have, and we'll always make sure you get to the right spot. So
Great.
it's just what we want people to know.
Good.
Mhm.
Now, for this last part, I like to play kind of a little game involving scenarios, right? I'm going to give a real life scenario, ones that we typically see here in Austin, right? That are pretty common. And then you'll tell me, should it be a 911 call or a 311 call, right? Now, after that, if it is a 911 call, we'll kind of flip it and kind of give an example of what would make it a 311 call and vice versa. So if it's a 311 call, then we'll flip it and kind of explain what would make that a 911 call. Might be a little confusing, but we'll kind of,
We got it.
as we go along, we get it. So scenario number one, I've been involved in a crash. There are no injuries. Both cars are still drivable, and we're not blocking any traffic.
That's going to be 311. Yes. So life and property are not immediately in danger. So yes, your cars might have like a little scratch on the back of it, but basically what's going to happen is you'll call into 311 and get that police report started. So say if you do need it for insurance and things like that, you can always have that on file. So that's what 311 is going to be there for. But especially if everybody's being really cooperative in the situation, then you're good to go. It's just 311.
So there's no injuries. You're not blocking traffic. Both cars are drivable.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly a 311 call.
Yes.
Okay. Now, to flip that, what would make that a 911 call?
Well, you flip it. Someone's injured. Yeah. Or the vehicles can't move anymore, so they're blocking. Think of kind of go back to Mopac. You hit that trash bag, or you hit another car. You're blocking the road. You're blocking a major roadway. That's
Yeah.
911.
Good. And you can even look at, let's say no one's injured, right? But you're blocking on I-35. And we all know that one crash on 35 can shut down the whole city, right? So even just blocking would warrant a 911 call, correct?
Oh, without a doubt.
Perfect. Now let's go to scenario number 2. I was just assaulted by someone I don't know, and that person is still near me. I'm bleeding.
That's a 911 call. The attacker is still there. And you're bleeding. You're gonna need EMS. That's simple right there. You need it.
Pretty self-explanatory, right? Now, what would make that a 311 call?
I feel like in a lot of situations that could remain 911 just depending on the amount of injuries you have. So, definitely if you need EMS, that's going to be 911. But say if you're totally fine and it was just like maybe a tiny scratch or something, definitely 311. You can
Okay.
call us for that one. But yeah, injury wise, I feel like that's where it gets a little iffy. But
Okay. Now, let's say the suspect has since left, right?
Mhm.
I still want to report it.
Yeah.
Would that be a 311 call?
Yeah, definitely a 311 at that point. Yeah, if you're good to go and they're gone somewhere else, call us.
Great. Scenario number 3. Someone is breaking into my house. I'm upstairs and I can hear noises downstairs. No one is supposed to be here with me.
Call 911,
Mhm.
please.
Pretty easy, right?
Yeah, I mean, a stranger is in your house. They broke in. That's a burglary.
Now, what kind, like using that same kind of scenario or situation, what would turn that into a 311 call?
I want to touch on that, but also I want to ask about because you can text in that situation too, right?
Yeah.
For 911.
Yes, you can.
Because I'm thinking if I'm upstairs by myself and there's not supposed to be somebody there,
Yeah.
I might not want to hop on the phone. So
Yeah, sometimes, obviously you don't want to alert this stranger in your home, so you're more than welcome to text 911 if you're unable to call. We'll always have a call taker available to take your text, so it's always an option.
Great.
that's really cool. To make it 311, I would say if your house has been broken into and you were out and about in the city that day and you come home and you notice like your lock is broken and it's not supposed to be, that's whenever it's going to be 311 is kind of there's nobody on scene anymore. Um, you don't hear anybody else in the house. You know nobody's in the house, things like that. So that's whenever it's going to be 311.
Pretty simple. Now, scenario number 4. My car was broken into last night and things are missing.
That's 311. Yeah, so we touched on it a little bit earlier about car break-ins, but yeah, the crime is already said and done. You just need a police report at that point, so it's gonna be 311. Thank goodness for 311 situations, you weren't there, so I feel like that's whenever it's kind of a little bit of a blessing is you're able to go to the aftermath of it and not have to be in that stressful situation and have to call 911, so
Good.
we're here for afterwards.
And now flipping that, this is a common one that we kind of see. That same type of scenario, making it a 911 call.
911 would be it's actively occurring, and I myself, I've dealt with that, calling it in. I was trying to get my girlfriend some coffee before work, and I had just gotten off the night shift, and she's about to go in, and I step out. There's someone going through my truck. Pick up the phone, call 911. Hey, there's someone actively going through my vehicle. So in those cases, that's where it goes from 311 to 911, or they just went through it and they're walking away. You have a description on them. You know what they look like. Call 911.
Yeah, and we get those calls a lot, the burglary of vehicles, because just because they're done with your car doesn't mean they're not going to go on to the next car and the next car after
Exactly.
that. So if you can get a police response there pretty quickly, we can prevent that person from stealing other property. And at the same time, if we're able to catch that person, we can possibly get the property that he just stole from you. So
Exactly.
that's the perfect scenario for a 911 call. So as we wrap things up, what are some of the other ways, Ivan, that people can report crimes here in Austin, aside from just calling 911?
I report Austin, obviously. And ireportaustin.com is that's a website. It's also for non-emergency, but you could also report obviously like you said burglaries that are no longer in progress, or you can text to 911 as previously mentioned.
Okay, and then do a lot of people use that texting? Is it more of like a convenience thing, or is it something that you see, like, let's say maybe there's a home invasion or a domestic violence situation where they're in the same room as the, let's say, suspect, and they can kind of do that more discreetly. Do you see one or the other?
It's a mix of both, and I only say this because we have a large deaf community as well, and they have their own relay system as well that they can call us through, but sometimes they'd rather just text. It's quicker, right?
Yeah.
Than having to use an interpreter at times. Or yeah, we do have a lot of domestic violence where they do want to call it in, or just a simple, hey, I'm really uncomfortable in this situation. I don't want to talk on the phone while the person's near me. So yeah, go ahead, text us.
Yeah. And now piggybacking off of the texting to 911, because when I think about texting 911, I'm thinking a scenario, let's say domestic violence related, right? They're in the same room as the offender, right? And they can't talk on the phone, but they need a police response. What would be a recommendation for somebody in that same situation that they can't talk on the phone, but there's an emergency and they need police response?
In that case, one of the biggest things I mentioned it earlier, just text your address. Say it is a police matter. You say police or help, things like that. Straight to the point. We know it's urgent. You can't say much. Just address and somewhat of the nature of the emergency, or just say police, policia, either or.
Okay. And then if you remove texting, let's say, because we respond to 911 hang up calls all the time, right? Would calling 911 and hanging up kind of initiate a police response right away?
It depends. If you call 911, we don't hear anything. We attempt a call back, and let's say we don't hear anything because you did somehow end up answering or you didn't answer. We don't respond to those. But if you call us and we hear sounds of struggling, a fight, something going on in the background that raises suspicion, we're going to put in a call. And like I previously mentioned, rapid SOS.
Mhm.
We're going to try to find you based off the location we got.
Good. So that's, I mean, that's great information
Yeah.
for someone that might be in that situation at any point in time. So good to know. Britton, are there any other methods that you guys use to report 311 calls other than just calling 311?
Yeah, so you can always call 311 or use the 10-digit number I said earlier. Our Austin 311 mobile app, you can submit up to 3 photos kind of the issue and then submit it with your service request. That makes it really easy for the department to be able to like go and investigate because instead of having to like look around and search on the road where the pothole is, they're just like, okay, it's literally right here. So then that one, and then online at austin311.org. So those are the 3 ways. And then say if you need to submit a service request in Spanish, you can always call. And we have a service called Language Line, and it's over 200 languages. So I guess not even just Spanish, it's 200 plus languages that you can call in. So
Oh, that's awesome.
you'll get help. Don't worry.
Now, when you mention calling 311, do you have to be within the city of Austin to utilize just 311, or do I have to actually call the 512-974-2000 number?
Yeah. So if you're submitting a service request, it is going to be for the city of Austin because that's what we service. But if you have any questions and things like that, but you're outside of the city limit, call the 10-digit number 512-974-2000. There's also some cell phone providers that don't allow the 311 number. So if that's the case, always the 10-digit, or you can call your own cell phone provider and ask them to turn on that number for you. So,
Great.
mhm.
Now, for both of y'all, what advice would you give someone who's still, even after all this, who's still unsure? Do I call 311? Do I call 911? What advice would you give? Starting with you, Ivan.
um, if it's life threatening, it's immediate, things like that, call us at 911. Even if you're unsure, you can call 911 and we can redirect you. It's no biggie if it ends up being a non emergency.
Good. And Bryn?
I think same thing for 311. Always call us and we'll make sure you get to the right place. But I think overall, the people who are answering the phones on either side are really just looking to help. And they're always amazing people behind the phones too. So I would always say you're going to get help if you call. So
Good.
yeah.
And Ivan, last question. Everyone who comes on the podcast, we ask this at the end. What is the hardest part about your job or the position that you're in right now?
I'd say the hardest part is definitely the emotional whiplash. I mean, prior to coming here, I would have really severe calls where it's someone screaming in my ear. You're trying to help them, you're trying to work with them, trying to calm them down, and it's the voices you're hearing. Sometimes you can hear the caller being attacked, and that to me is really hard. Um, and then after the call's over, you're going to the next call. And even though that call that previously shook you up, you have to stay calm and steady for the next caller and the next caller. And you don't know when the next crazy call might come in, but you know you're going to take that call, you're going to get them the appropriate help and stay calm and, composed.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do as 911 call takers. We got to stay calm for those who are having crisis.
Great. And Bryn, what's the hardest part about your job?
Um, my answer is definitely not to the level of Ivan's, but I would just say education. So it's really hard whenever you're going throughout the city and people don't know that they have those resources available. And so that's the biggest part is just making sure we can educate any and all Austinites, residents, visitors, everybody, that this is a resource for you and you're going to get help you need with city services. So that's the
Great.
biggest thing for me.
Good.
Mhm.
Well, Ivan and Bryn, I want to thank you for coming on the show, taking the time out of your day to join us and kind of break down this topic, and allow our listeners to kind of realize, okay, maybe this is good information to take and hold on to on whether like I call 911 or 311. We want to thank you and your teams both, on all the hard work that you guys do behind the scenes. From an officer's perspective, like we couldn't do this job without you guys. And for our community, thank you for helping them when they need help most. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For our listeners, thank you for joining us today. For more information about community events with the Austin Police Department, safety tips, news releases, follow us on our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and X as Austin Police Department. We hope this conversation provides you with the resources that help everyone keep Austin safe.